Hey guys, this is your host Eric. Today we are going to watch sci-fi genre movie called Project Gemini. Spoilers ahead, turn on your subtitle. I greatly appreciate your support. Enjoy the video. The first case of a global plant virus was discovered 3 years ago, and it has since ravaged the majority of our ecosystems. Eating virus-infected food causes severe autoimmune diseases, and the loss of plant life has reduced the amount of oxygen in the atmosphere by 10%, increasing the number of natural disasters around the world. The world's leading research laboratories have been unable to develop a cure, and people are beginning to believe that the planet is doomed. Dr. Stephen's Project Gemini, based on 2 ancient alien artifacts discovered by paleontologists, is the only hope left. The objects are 4 billion years old, before there was any kind of life on Earth. Stephen's team has replicated the super tough materials used to make the sphere and the engine, and this engine has allowed them to build a ship that can fly unmanned and find a suitable planet to terraform. The sphere is used to create life and is powered by dozens of commands that the team has finally decoded. It also demonstrates that life on Earth was created by a team of doctors and military pilots will travel several hundred light years to create Earth 2.0 with a sphere in the solar system test. Stephen's wife, Amy, does not want him to go on this mission from here. She still comes to the base on the day of the launch to try to stop Stephen from leaving, but she is late and must watch the ship leave the planet. When the ship leaves the atmosphere, an unusual crack appears on the alien sphere, indicating that they are not. The ship opens a warping portal using alien engine technology, allowing them to travel across the universe. However, once they reach the other side, the systems report an error. They have yet to arrive at Tess. They're in an unknown location. Stephen blames engineer Peter, claiming he made a mistake when entering the coordinates and has relieved him of his duties for the time being. While resting, Stephen thinks about Amy, but also about the first time he activated the sphere, which allowed him to see some strange humanoid forms so quickly. Following that, Stephen instructs the team to attempt to set the jump trajectory in order to determine their location, but this is impossible because all of their data is jumbled as if they have moved between the 3rd and 4th dimension. Meanwhile, Peter leaves his bunker and takes one of the security cameras to inspect the sphere on his own. To everyone's surprise, the computer announces that someone has opened the repair airlock and that an unidentified object is approaching. They are startled to see a frozen Peter floating in the air. Dr. David believes Peter ended things because he couldn't bear the consequences of his mistake. But Dr. Leona refuses to believe it because she's known Peter for 8 years and he wasn't that kind of guy. Stephen chastises her for crying over the man who has doomed humanity, and assigns her to take over Peter's responsibilities from now on. Later, David reveals that when his daughter died, he almost ended things as well, but he decided he could be useful instead. He feels useless now that the mission is over, but Stephen assures him that they will find a solution. At that point, the ship encounters a volcanic planet. It lacks oxygen, but the outside environment is not hostile, so they only require breathing masks. Stephen believes it is the best option for carrying out their plan and is eager to land. But Captain Ryan stops him, pointing out that they haven't done a proper examination of the planet yet, so Stephen is putting the crew's safety at risk. Stephen, on the other hand, is unconcerned and reminds everyone he's the one making the decisions here. Officer Richard will remain on the shuttle while the rest of the team departs. As the shuttle approaches the planet, they are hit by a powerful storm, forcing them to use the braking thrusters to slow their descent. It will also deplete all of their fuel and prevent them from returning, but it is their only chance of survival. As the shuttle touches down, the crew passes out, and Stephen recalls giving Amy a bracelet made from a specific part of the old sphere in an attempt to connect the 2 most important things in his life. The crew awakens moments later and immediately returns to work. The shuttle has not been critically damaged, but the fuel is running low and they are stuck. Stephen sees no problem with this because they came to stay for 4 years. And even if they didn't land on the desired location, he's confident they can use one of the massive caves as a dome for the sphere to be launched in. Meanwhile, a strange goo falls off the mothership's walls in the shuttle's hidden quarters. Richard searches the other rooms and discovers this goo, as well as the missing camera. Once everyone is properly outfitted, the crew transports the sphere to the nearest cave and successfully activates it. They then return to the shuttle to begin data collection, but Riot interrupts their work to announce martial law is in effect. He shares some files to explain his decision. Richard dispatched him while the doctors were at work. It's a video of Peter filming himself while inspecting the sphere so that he can't be accused of making mistakes. Later, when he opens the engine door, he discovers something moving in the shadows that jumps on him and kills him before throwing him out of the ship. The camera cannot capture the shape of his creature, but Richard explains that he has reviewed all of the footage and that alien has been with them since they left Earth because it, like the Trojan, traveled inside the sphere. It most likely caused the failure during the jump, but it's no longer on the mothership. It's taken a shuttle down to the planet. Richard is able to track it down because the alien causes interference in the electromagnetic field, which explains the poor recording. David, who is noticing something strange on the system, abruptly interrupts the discussion. The sphere is running a program other than the one they uploaded. Stephen wishes to return to the sphere, but Ryan stops him, reminding him that he will no longer allow him to lead and accusing him of keeping. Ryan reveals that Richards also discovered footage of Stephen seeing that strange shape months ago on Earth, so he was aware of the threat, but he told no one, implying that Peter's death was his fault. This accusation offends me. Stephen rushes out of the room, reflecting on all of the effort he and David have put into this project. Stephen wasn't sure David should have come with them because he was still grieving, but David persuaded him that he was fine and wanted to make the world a better place so that other children wouldn't die like his daughter. Stephen then approaches David and asks him to accompany him through the airlock to check on him. David does not want to disobey Ryan, but Stephen persuades him by reminding him of his daughter and the planet's future. As soon as they arrive at the cave, they notice that the sphere is producing an alien life form faster than it is producing life on Earth. Because the settings have been readjusted, Stephen immediately begins working on the sphere settings, ignoring David's request to leave and discuss things with everyone. At that moment, David notices on their radar that the alien is approaching, so he fires a warning shot in an attempt to scare Stephen away. Stephen responds by drawing his own weapon, but before things get too heated, they notice the aliens have already entered the cave. After Stephen grabs a piece of the sphere to take with him, both men start running away, noticing the creatures approaching due to its shadows and noises. When they leave the cave, they finally get a good look at it, but before it can attack them, they get back into the shuttle and close the airlock. David accuses Stephen of putting their lives in danger, but Stephen reminds him that the fear is more important than the next time. He will not hesitate. Ryan then appears to scold Stephen as well, and when Stephen explains that they will have to use force to stop him, Ryan punches him. The computer abruptly raises an alarm to notify the crew that the integrity of the module has been compromised. Leona leaves her room to investigate the problem and discovers a lot of goo in the corridor before being pulled back into another area. Frank is the one who informs her that the alien has breached the load deck and is now inside the lander. With extreme caution, the pair makes their way to the lab, where hiding is becoming increasingly difficult. The lights go out in an instant, and a strange noise can be heard coming from behind the plant units. This means the alien has arrived. So Frank pushes Leona out of the room, and she can hear Frank scream as she runs down the corridor. While the alien is executing him, Leona meets with the rest of the team in the control room and informs them of what has occurred. Ryan screamed at Stephen for bringing the alien back with him. The creature entered through a hole in the hallway. It has also damaged the generator, and the cameras aren't working, so they've lost contact with Richard and have no visuals of the rest of the crew. Their only option is to go to the backup generator and reconnect everything, which will be extremely difficult if they can't find the creature. Because it's his fault that his weapon is out, Stephen volunteers to go. Stephen carefully makes his way to the generator and successfully restores the communication system. The team can now track the alien and warn Stephen when it is close, but as soon as Stephen tries to flee, he starts hearing those noises. Fortunately, Ryan acts quickly and drags him back into the control room using a metal rope. While Stephen waits outside to play bait, Leona opens the airlocks and the lab door, hurrying to another room to hide. As soon as the alien emerges, the creature begins making its way through the airlocks. When Richard tries to start the engine to burn it out, he is unable to do so because the alien is interfering with the signal. Stephen flees for his life, and Leona arrives to assist him. But then the alien appears, and Richard regains access to the engine. As the creature is hit by the fire, Stephen and Leona rush back inside, but this isn't enough to kill it, and it tries to reach Stephen, who is being dragged inside by. The tentacle of the alien injures David's arm just as they close the door, leaving the creature's limb inside. While the beast returns to the cave, Ryan closes the airlocks and the others begin repairing the hole. Moments later, the team discovers Frank's body, and while Leona decides to end things for herself out of grief, Stephen considers Amy once more. She'd tried to persuade him not to leave by telling him she was working on a vaccine, but more importantly, she was pregnant. Even so, Stephen stayed because saving the Earth was more important than his personal safety. Stephen brings the tentacle to study while David goes to the lab to have his wound bandaged. He discovers the creature is a biobot made of the same material as the sphere, implying that the sphere's purpose has always been to create these beasts. Stephen informs David that the tentacle has infected him with a bacteria with an extremely powerful defense mechanism, which means his blood now holds the key to creating a vaccine to save the planet. This means that the alien is a transponder, and this is how his race colonizes. Stephen decides they must kill the alien and restore the sphere settings, but Ryan locks him up in the lab and arrests him for endangering everyone's lives. Ryan observes that lives are expendable to Stephen, and David concurs, stating that Stephen only wants to play the hero and has no regard for humanity. This reminds Stephen of her previous argument with Amy, who accused him of having a savior complex before throwing away her bracelet. Stephen continues his research in the lab and develops a theory, which Richard confirms by checking the travel logs. They did not jump through space, but rather through it. They're still on Earth, but it's 4 billion years before life existed, and the clone sphere they brought is the same one paleontologists discover later in the future, ignoring the fact that David's wound is getting worse. Stephen becomes ecstatic when he realizes the sphere fragment he grabbed earlier is the same one he will use to make Amy's bracelet in the future. So he writes a message on it, instructing Amy on how to activate the sphere they left behind. Meanwhile, in the present, Amy appears at Stephen's lab while dealing with a new say. The group failed. Suddenly, Richard approaches Stephen with concerning news. Ryan has turned off his radio to avoid complaints while preparing explosives to blow up the sphere. Stephen requests that Richard reopen the airlock so he can escape, and as soon as he sees Ryan with the bombs, he begins explaining that they can devise a better plan. Their conversation is cut short by an unexpected shot that kills Ryan. David is the one who escaped through the airlock and has become deranged as a result of the infection, leading him to believe that the alien has chosen him to assist. It makes things right because humans are a flaw, and Stephen distracts David by throwing Leona's Rubik Cube at the wall and then hits him with a shot. Stephen detonates the bomb before going outside to fire a flare to attract the alien's attention, causing David to flee injured. Stephen chases it into the control room and locks it up. At that moment, the alien bursts through the door and approaches Stephen, who quickly removes it. The alien pursues Stephen as he begins to flee, and when he returns to the control room, he runs into David, who attempts to kill him. His actions are halted when the alien appears and kills him first, allowing Stephen to flee the shuttle just before the bomb explodes and kills the beast. Richard, who is trying to contact anyone alive, wakes Stephen up after he passes out outside for a few seconds. Richard wants to help, but the storm is too strong, so Stephen tells him to stay back while he returns to the cave to use it. Meanwhile, Amy discovers her bracelet again and notices the message, so she uses it to activate the sphere as well. At that point, husband and wife reconnect in a fusion of past and present, and Stephen who shares the vaccine formula before expressing his love as the connection ends. Stephen dies in the cave due to a lack of oxygen, and Amy sobs when she realizes she is a widow. Amy is now raising a very healthy baby thanks to the vaccine that is now helping the Earth to become a better place. We really appreciate you watching. If you enjoy this video, please give it a like. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel with the notification bell because it is really important for us. Thank you.